Pronti? Buongiorno a tutti, siamo qui con un altro streaming delle residenze di Vettori 2024, il programma di residenze artistiche del Teatro La Contrada. Abbiamo qui con noi oggi Tsar Christophe. Io anche vi vorrei indicare che questo streaming sarà in lingua inglese. Abbiamo delle traduzioni automatiche su YouTube e sul nostro sito. Se premete il tasto del generatore automatico di sottotitoli, da quelli verranno tradotti automaticamente dall'inglese all'italiano. Detto questo, con oggi esploreremo il lavoro di Christophe in questo progetto che si chiama Becoming a Monument, in cui l'analisi della comunità filippina Trieste porta ad un workshop finale che si svolgerà il 12, questo venerdì, il 12 di luglio alle ore 18, sempre qui in Sala Polacco, adiacente al Teatro Bobbio. Detto questo, inizieremo in inglese da adesso. So, welcome, Tsar. It's a pleasure to have you with us. It's been about a week and a half that you are with us. Has been a lot of exploring, a lot of topics discussed already. So I wanted to start by asking you, what is exactly becoming a monument?
Okay, so becoming a monument, so it's the first iteration of that started last year at ultra-dependent public school at BAC in Utrecht. And then the second iteration happened also last year at Shutter Space Studios in Manila, and then just recently in Baguio. So becoming a monument is basically the inspiration of that basically came from how we define monuments. So usually the monuments is created in celebration of a person or an event, and usually these monuments are somehow guides us in navigating a certain place or a city, especially when you go to Google Maps, for example, or a regular map, and it is somehow somehow like has parallel use or somehow parallel to how our ancestors used the natural, like the trees or the mountains or the rivers, or for example, even in during the exploration on sea, people use the stars. And so in some way, the constellation are also a form of monuments. So the becoming a monument basically for this specific residency is aimed for Filipino migrant workers here in Trieste. It's a way for me to understand their way of, I guess, like monument making or memory, preserving memory. There is this place is quite special to me as my
So just to give a context, maybe before exploring all of these different locations that you have explored in order to seek this community here in Trieste. You are Filipino origin, of Filipino ethnicity. This city already, though, saw you and part of your family living in here and exploring these same grounds. Do you want to maybe introduce a little bit about that?
Yes. So I have my relatives, my aunties, and they came here in Italy in early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. This is during the martial law era, the dictatorship in the 70s. It was basically due to the economic pressure, and the state could not provide basically jobs for the Filipinos. Only a few people are benefiting from are gaining basically, being coming from a working class family, basically it's impossible almost to basically to have a capital or to have a better life. And then eventually during the time my aunties came here as they worked in the culture, more of entertainment sector. So in the I think at the same time, in the 80s there was a flock of migrant workers here. So mostly working in entertainment sector, hospitality, nursing, or in the domestic, doing domestic work. I have relatives who also went to that journey
they resided here afterwards.
Yes.
And your work also touches a lot in your research, at least maybe in this residency, as far as I could see. There is a lot of work also in the research about how institutions made these migratory fluxes, if we can call them like that. I was very impressed when you showed me this text of how it was drafted in law, specifically in the 70s, to help people move. So it was some sort of man-made. And eventually also to make them come back in the Philippines, or at least that was the plan.
So so in the 70s during the dictatorship, as I mentioned earlier, so the people are forced to work overseas to have a higher a better pay basically, and also there was a policy that officially somehow export labor. That was made in the late 70s, if I'm not mistaken. It was done by the state. So at first it started in the Middle East. So most of the people who go there are mostly men working in the transportation sector, construction sector, manufacturing sector, and my father also went to the Middle East in Iraq in late 70s, if I'm not mistaken, or early 80s. So he's also one of those people who went to the Middle East to work, and then later on, in the 90s and late 80s, there was also a demand for domestic work and entertainment sector. So some countries, for example, like Japan or here in Europe, there were a flock of Filipino migrant workers, and based on this text that I read, it was one of the reasons why Filipinos choose Italy is because of the similarities of culture, and also because of the excuse me, because of the religion. And as you know, like the Philippines is a very Catholic country because of Spain.
You have been invited by your auntie also to go to see the Pope that passed by.
Yeah.
And in the end, what did you answer?
I said I'm gonna work. I'm gonna do field work.
Some field work it was. That's very good. It was a strange also happening in a certain sense to have exactly this, figure that is so important, especially not only for our culture, but like you were saying, to other Catholics around the world. And so it was interesting, at least, that it was happening at the same time as this residency. The different fluxes that you mentioned, you also analyzed in your research many different countries. Do you have, with the more this research goes on, do you have a more comprehensive idea of where these migrant fluxes eventually will go? Or more, it's usually your approach is to create more ad hoc pieces across the different maybe lands or landscapes that you have explored?
I think like coming here, for years of my relatives working here, I also, like a beneficiary of their labor, and for me, it's very important to use my privilege now to somehow, like they said, and go on into this journey with them or revisit their journey, as it was often not discussed in the family or whenever they arrive in the Philippines. And it's usually the case, the migrant workers do not really feel comfortable talking about their hardships. And I think it is very important for family back home to ground ourselves where why do our family go to other place in just to have a food on the plate or have an education or have a roof above our heads. I think it's not often discussed, and for me it's very important, as this somehow will dictate where we are going as a society, or even if that's not gonna happen, somehow like an enlightenment. Why did my father, for example, or my mother, because in some cases both of the parents are absent, and the child or the children are left behind in the Philippines and being raised by a relative or a grandmother. In my case, also, I grew up with my grandmother, and that's very much the case. And although here in Italy there is a program, a reunification program. It was, I think, it was the state who created this program. As most of the migrant workers here are women, a majority. So some of them are single mothers or have like partners back home. And I think it was a program for them to come together. But it's not easy. It's not always easy. There is a text which is placed here that talks about this particular study only focuses on Rome. So in some way, like interviews of the children here who arrived. I think it's from 11 to 18. You can the mothers can request for the children to come here, and be with them, and they would go to school, etc., etc. But it's not always an easy path, and especially if you grew up separate. There's also, I think, apart from like this adjustment on the culture, there's also
on the side of the child. Also
on the side of the child, there's also like adjustment in the emotional like connection, because like some people are do not see each other for decades, for example, or like for years. So it's not an easy path. I don't know if I answered your question.
Absolutely, yes. This field of work has been very personal. A residency like this doesn't happen very often, and the combination of these factors for us was very interesting, especially to host you. The extensive research also that you did terminated in several different aspects that are all going to collapse in these workshops that we are going to do here in Sala Polacco Friday, again, venerdì alle 18, Friday at 6 p.m. Which elements were you mostly interested on exploring after finding this community, after literally search for them, in places that you wouldn't even think of? Which are going to be the aspects that you wanted to analyze the most with this workshop?
So the early iteration of becoming a monumenter pretty much open to different backgrounds and ages, and then usually this workshop has multiple exercises. So there's mapping exercises, drawing exercises, a lot of shadow work, and a lot of shadow work going through going through their memory. And then there's also an aspect at the end of the workshop, karaoke. So in some way, this kind of like celebration, like the karaoke as a way to to go through the pilgrimage. For if you compare it to a pilgrimage or a procession, there is like a celebration of triumph or whatever. So
the unification, literally.
Yes.
As you can see behind us, in the studio that Tsar set up during this time, we have a small view also, not only on the text of the research that you did, but also of these banderitas, le bandiere, the flags that are behind. I love this connection of strings, but also of nautical flags that that are actual alphabets on the boats. Those bring the name of the boat itself or where it is from. So some kind of message sent from far away. Yes. So I love this idea, these connections that you brought. I wanted to just take 1 minute to also explore an introduction from Marco Puntin, il nostro spettatore esperto. Questa introduzione viene fatta a Catastrofa, che si trova vicino a Piazza Ortis. È una bellissima galleria d'arte in cui il nostro Marco Puntin ha continuato ad avere una bellissima collezione di opere. Marco Puntin anche è stato fondamentale per la ricerca che abbiamo potuto fare assieme attraverso anche dei differenti tipi di forme artistiche. In questo video, in questa piccola introduzione alle residenze, vedremo in che modo lui ci ha consigliato anche la continuazione di questo programma.
Buongiorno! Buongiorno! Che meraviglia!
No, la residenza, secondo me, è proprio quell'elemento che va completamente a rompere il discorso banale dell'arte, per esempio dell'arte contemporanea come puro mercato, come libero scambio voglio dire, fra collezionista, creatore, collezionista, eccetera. Perché la residenza incide sul luogo e c'è uno scambio in cui qualcosa rimane nel luogo e qualcosa l'artista porta via di quello che ha vissuto e di quello che ha.
Ok, eccoci di nuovo qui. Grazie Marc Pontin, veramente dalla Contrada, abbiamo molto apprezzato la presenza. Adesso continueremo con la nostra conversazione. So, to continue, basically during the workshop, these different activities are going to be all saved also for you as a result of your research. What do you think are going to be the next steps of this project, this actual years-long project?
Yeah, so this iteration, initially have a specific participant, but then, like since it is also difficult to bring people together because of there is no the absence of the association or the group of Filipinos, but there are some like people that I was able to meet and interview from here and also from other cities, and so like I for this Friday it's going to be like more open, and I think it's would be great, like this overlap of backgrounds. So there will be Filipinos here, and like local, from Trieste, and I think it would be super exciting to see. I don't know yet where this is going, but since this iteration would be more, not super elaborate, unlike the previous workshop, but hopefully this would connect people more, connect from people to people, and also for the participants or the attendees of this evening, like reconnect with their memories.
That's a hefty goal. Has to be the usage also of video and especially paper for you has this word always coming along during your practice. Memory, it's something fading. It's something that you cannot hold on to, and when you hold on, it's somehow different, every single time that you retouch it. This is why I like also your usage of maps, or at least of many elements that are also historical, or that are researched in a way to bring another point of view. You have went around Trieste a lot to search for the community, the Filipino community, of course, but also to search for objects or other kind of not obvious connections to this city. As a last question, I guess, which one is your favorite location in Trieste, and which is the most exact little object you found maybe during these adventures?
Yeah, like in the past week, I've been going out a lot. I rarely spend time here in the studio. So like
we spend a lot of time nonetheless. It was a lot of work.
So like before coming here, I brought one of my publications that I made last year, which is about migration and memory as well, and also some objects from back home. For example, a hat, which is here. It was given to me by my late mother, who passed away last year. And then also some of the photographs of my father, who passed away like years ago. I have some objects here that I brought with me in some way to come along with the journey. And especially the average Filipino, like cannot, it's not an easy path to go to get a visa, for example. So to come here with, like an invitation from you, from La Contrada, and also, it's been, I would not say easier, but it's more, I think, less difficult compared to other Filipinos. So for me, it's very important to bring objects with me here, and then also find these objects throughout Trieste. So for example, a bunch of small photographs that I found, small photographs of Trieste from decades ago, which I found at a second-hand shop, and also I brought some objects from.
I love your snacks. That was my favorite.
Which one?
Especially the album snacks that you brought us. Those Filipino snacks were very, very good.
Yes, snacks.
Snacks.
Yes.
Sì, gli snack. Ci ha portato dei regali anche dalle Filippine.
So this flavor, images, I think in some way, how do we take people to places? So if it's impossible to bring them there, maybe through image or through taste, through other senses, even like the texture of the bag. That's also what I did here. I was walking a lot. I was walking a lot, going to secondhand shops, going to the parks, to the gardens, and also meeting a lot of people, and then hanging out a lot with my relatives here. It was very educational in a way, to see, to experience a city. Although this is my third time here, but this is, I think, like the time I was able to really have that, like I am become my own navigator in some way. So I think like going back to becoming a monument, and like how do we navigate a city without monuments? So I think in some way monuments can be made by us. It's not only be made by a state or by a company, and build this, like thing, this huge, like have a spectacle
of something that in the end is going to always reiterate it back to something that previously was there, especially with companies nowadays. So it's always some kind of memory reiteration. I am very fascinated by your work. I am sure that our guests at the workshop are going to have a lot of fun. There is going to be also some drinks, some very small catering, and a karaoke. So we hope to have a lot of guests.
Yes, and I'm excited also to show the video work, apart from this paper installation that I put in the studio.
And of course, there is going to be also much more explanation of the whole project by Tsar Christophe itself, not only obviously a studio visit, of course. Quindi grazie a tutti quelli che ci hanno seguito, quelli che ci hanno potuto seguire anche dopo. Questo video lo ritroverete sempre sui nostri social media, sul nostro sito e su YouTube. Come al solito, alla Contrada noi continuiamo a sostenere artisti e continuiamo a produrre come possiamo queste residenze che sono veramente al centro quest'anno di questa città di Trieste. Vi ringraziamo per averci seguito di nuovo. Thank you very much.